Top of the morning, Tony.
Top of the morning to you, David.
Well, actually, it's not for you. What time is it in Abu Dhabi?
It's 6 p.m. for me, my man.
That's awesome. So you're going to either just had dinner or you're going to go for dinner after this.
I'm going to go for dinner after this. I finished my workout. I work on US time mostly anyway, so evening times are basically stuff my face around this time and then work throughout the night.
Wow. So your clock is kind of reversed.
Yeah, man, it is. But look, it's good. It works for me at the minute, so I don't mind. What
That's
about
great.
you? Outside of this, what do you do with the rest of your day? You're a coach yourself. You're a leadership coach, yes?
Yeah, I'm a leadership coach, so I train people on leadership, and that's where the environment thing comes in for me. I'm a huge believer that leaders do well when they don't try to control people, but they just create environments that influence people, and that's the best way to move people forward. It applies to what I do. It applies to what you do. It's just so important. And I'm a photographer, so I do a Big Rig calendar every single year. I tell people stories about people. So this is Canada's Big Rig calendar. It celebrates 13 drivers every single year. Worked for Shell for 15 years. And serve the transport sector. And it's, a life that I could never do because it's not easy. But I love telling their story because it's in their blood. So,
Awesome.
in pretty much anywhere, I think around the world, it's pretty common. It's not just what they do, it's who they are. And no matter how much
Absolutely.
they bitch or complain about it any given day, take them away from it. No, they go back.
Yeah. Absolutely. We all have our home comforts as such, or things we want to stick to.
Yeah.
Go
So
for
good
it.
morning, Canada, United States, transport. This is David and the Wow Show. As you know, on the Wow Show, we do three things. We celebrate you. As drivers, we tell your story. We celebrate who you are and thank you for what you do. We have contests and we have some fun on the show. And then thirdly, we bring on people who know their stuff so that we can just get better, because that's what life is all about. Life gets better when we're growing ourselves and we're reaching forward towards potential. This morning, it's my honor to have Tony Scullion, who is a coach, a trainer in the areas and talks about fitness, mindset, wellness, nutrition, weight loss. Tony, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, David, and thank you, Canada.
Yeah, no, it's I'm glad. Now, Tony is in a place that I've been to, and I told him I'm very intrigued with, which is Dubai, United Arab Emirates. I haven't been to Dubai. I've been to Abu Dhabi in the UAE, but what an amazing place. Tony, why don't you just, to begin the program, tell us about your journey to UAE. Tell us a little bit about Operation Role Model. Tony's website is tonyscullion.com. Tell us about your journey to what brought you here.
So coming to Dubai was looking to get more out of life, to be better at what I'm doing, to reach more people and to be happier. I grew up in Northern Ireland, and Northern Ireland, we have a summer that lasts, if we're lucky, 2 weeks. Usually it's 2 days. But bottom line is I have an autoimmune condition, and I have a lot of injuries from training in martial arts my whole life. And the cold weather wasn't really good for me. I'm 44 years old now. It wasn't really helping me. So in 2015, I had previously just recovered from a spinal injury. And I'd faced the challenge of climbing Mont Blanc, the largest mountain in the Alps, as part of my recovery, after being told I would never walk again properly or be able to exercise again properly. And once I finished the challenge of climbing the Alps, which was life-changing for me, and I came back, I was coaching psychologists. I had a couple of psychologists I was coaching, and they could tell I wasn't happy. And I'd previously, the year before that, been to Vietnam on a 10-day journey raising money for Action Cancer. Both these journeys were raising money for charity. And he said to me, basically, Tony, we can tell you're not happy. You need to go and discover more of the world and sort of develop yourself more, because you're stuck here in Northern Ireland. And it turned out I had some friends in Dubai. And it just seemed like once I get something into my mind, it's like, okay, I'm going to give this everything I've got. If I fail, at least I've tried. And so I made that decision to contact them. And within a few weeks, I had got things set up for moving here to Dubai, which was my first time moving away from my whole family,
Yeah.
all my friends. Like I only had 3 friends here, so it was a very scary decision. And I've
Yeah.
now been here 7 years.
Well, can I tell you, I think that the professors that you were working with were also your friends. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think more people, more leaders in this world need to, out of love, call a spade and ask someone who obviously isn't motivated in a certain environment, are you happy? Because it doesn't look like it. And
Exactly.
you deserve to be happy, and the people around you deserve to meet a person every single day that's happy.
I agree. It's infectious. It definitely is.
And you're an overcomer. And so, you know what, I've learned this when it comes to motivating people. For some people, that is their biggest motivation, is when they're told they can't do something. I remember sitting on an airplane next to a young man, and he said, my boss knows how to push my buttons. The seconds he tells me I can't do something, like I dare you could never do 200 of these in a day, I prove him wrong. And so talk about that a little bit. Obviously, that's been a big influence in what pushed you forward. You were able to climb Mont Blanc, which is interesting. I just watched a movie called The 14 Peaks, and it's a Nepalese mountain climber and an amazing documentary about someone who came from an environment where traditionally they couldn't and didn't. They were just in the background, and he decided he was going to make a difference. And so I love that choice of yours. Talk a little bit more about that driving force of being told you can't.
Well, I sort of, when I damaged my spine, I prolapsed 4 discs. Life as I knew it was over. I was super fit, keeping in shape, and I started feeling depressed, and I was ashamed of myself for how I reacted to it. After I started drinking and taking prescription drugs to help with the pain,
Yeah,
and I was drinking more to help with, like I went into a mini depression.
yeah,
And I had a previous friend that had an accident and ended up in a wheelchair.
yeah,
And I thought back, there's always somebody in a worse situation than you're in yourself.
yeah,
And thinking of this guy, Daryl, I started feeling ashamed for how I was feeling. Now, the doctors had told me basically I would never be able to do X, Y, and Z again. And I thought everything is in our own belief systems.
yeah,
The amount of times I've been told, as you mentioned, that you can't or you won't, if you take the attitude of, well, let me see if I can find a way.
yeah,
I had an option of surgery, which had a 50% positive rate. There was a big, because I had an extreme nerve damage from prolapsed discs.
yeah,
And bottom line was, I thought, well, if I've only a 50% chance with surgery, I might as well try my own way of
uh-huh,
getting recovery. So I explored all the medical avenues I could. I was very well connected in the medical community with being a coach for nearly 27 years.
yes,
And a lot of the methods helped a small amount, but didn't get me to where I needed to be.
yeah,
And a lot of it boiled down to working on my psychology and nutrition. Even though the physical aspect had to be improved to get myself walking the way I wanted and performing the way I wanted again, it was focusing on nutrition and mindset. So I look at the positive in every environment, and it actually helped me then, beyond that, as a coach,
yeah,
help more and more people with injuries, help more and more people with sustainable nutrition, which didn't need to be boring diets, to help them overcome what they were told before they couldn't overcome. They were told they had thyroid problems, gut problems, injuries that couldn't recover properly. And I says, well, look, if we reverse engineer this, because I'm an ex-engineer as well. So if we reverse engineer this and look at what you do have in your control and what we can do, let's look at what we can do. And then you might discover along the way, you can do much more than you actually realize.
yeah,
So it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot. And it was part of that journey of self-development that pushed me to move to Dubai. And luckily since then, I've had so many clients. I seem to attract clients that have a lot of injuries or conditions or, whatever it might be. And, it's not to say they don't have the injuries or conditions, but we learn how we can manage it better than the way that we're told in the beginning.
Yeah. And injuries, when I think of injuries, I mean, there's obviously the physical, and I was laughing as you were talking about, the multiple injuries you sustained through your martial art activities. I was thinking of cowboys in Canada, and cowboys in Canada break every bone in their
100%.
body by the time that they're 40, if they're bronco riding or they're doing whatever. And it's like they would relate to what you just said, and having to come back with that. The market that I serve is transport, and there's two sides to it. You have a focus on helping executives, and executives
Yes.
in transport have a very busy lifestyle, a very unpredictable lifestyle. It's one of those careers where very much so more the day plans you than you plan the day, because you never know what's going to go wrong and when it's going to go wrong and where it's going to go wrong. And so it's not like they can necessarily slot out certain hours of the day. And then there's the drivers, and our focus is going to be on those executives today. But the drivers in transport, the average lifespan of a Canadian is around 80 years old, and the same similar in the United States. The average lifespan of a North American trucker is 67.
Okay, yeah. Well, I suppose it's down to being seated for such long periods of time.
Yeah,
And then the only choice of food is typically sort of
McDonald's.
roadside food.
Yeah,
But here's where, a lot of what I teach regarding nutrition is everybody thinks it has to be all healthy food, to lose weight so that your body can perform better, but it doesn't.
mhm,
There was a study done, I think, in 2010 called the Twinkie diet. And the guy that did the actual diet ate basically nothing but Twinkies he added in some vegetables, but he added, like, it was all junk food.
yes.
And he lost a ton of weight and his health markers all improved, proving that it doesn't just have to be health food that you eat. You can still eat the junk food and you can still eat the roadside food, as long as you make sure you are getting the essential vitamins and minerals and keep your calories controlled, you can still lose weight.
So let me ask you this question, because you've identified several elements to this journey and being successful, and I'm going to ask you: is there one that comes first over the other? Because people ask, where do I start? So we've talked about mindset, we've talked about
Absolutely.
diet, and we've kind of referred to exercise. It's kind of the chicken and the egg. I know that when I exercise, my mindset improves, but sometimes I need to improve my mindset to be able to drag myself to the gym or do all of those things. Which comes first? Is there a pattern, or does it depend on the
Every
individual?
every single thing we do begins in the mind, because it has to become a thought before it becomes an action.
Yes.
But the biggest thing about people struggling to get the fitness goals is expectation. So if they have high expectations of what they're going to achieve and they can't achieve it, then guilt comes in.
Yeah.
Guilt comes in, and then it robs them of future progression because their ego's hurt, their self-image is damaged, whatever it might be. And that's a lot of what I try to focus on with my clients, is because everybody comes on board and says, I can do 5 hours a week or I can do 4. And I go, what happens if you have a week where you can only do 30 minutes? What's going to happen? Does that mean you give up? Does that mean you feel like a failure? So I want to, let's look at the worst case scenario. The same with the injury type scenario. Let's look at the worst case scenario and give you wins that you can achieve on the worst case scenario. So if you get a good week where you can do a lot more, you're going to multiply that. So
Yeah.
your expectation is managed on the lowest part of it. And then as long as you can manage the lowest part, then you're getting wins. And mindset, the need, the want and the desire to change. And second is actually nutrition. If you can get exercise in, of course, exercise is going to help you build muscle and reshape your body. But if your goal is just simply to lose weight, you don't need to exercise. You can just do that on nutrition alone. So again, if you manage those expectations that say you don't have any time within a week, you can go, well, I can at least still lose weight and keep my health markers aligned if I just manage the amount of calories that I'm eating based on, even if it is junk food, and make sure I get some vitamins to support the health markers.
Yeah, no, I like it. And so you mentioned this, that if people can find a reason to give them drive, to do that. And I know that, I'm not a psychologist and that's not my training, but I am a human behavioral addict. I love delving into why people do what they do. And usually beneath letting yourself go and developing bad habits in the area of health and nutrition and lifestyle and mindset is pain. Um,
Absolutely.
and because with either pain makes us run somewhere, and we usually want comfort. And sometimes that comfort is actually, while it feels good in the moment, is the worst thing for us. Whereas, if we're in the right environment, we can be guided towards a place that does both, makes us feel better, and is a long-term solution to what we're doing. How do you help people find that? Like, what, what's the trigger for most of your clients of getting to that place where they want to? Uh, yeah, so I'll stop there. I'll ask you that question.
Well, I said most of my clients are between the ages of 40 to 60 years old, okay? And the majority of them, it's realization that they're not maybe in their teenage years or their early 20s, they had an athletic physique or they were playing sports or they maybe were an athlete. So they know what it's like to be the top of their game. But then what's happened is life's taken over and all that focus has went into building their business or doing their job and raising their family, and they've suddenly realized they have no time for self-care.
Yeah.
And they maybe realize they have a belly and they understand that, especially if they have children, they want to enjoy that time when their children are going through school or maybe they're getting married or, big events like that. And as you mentioned earlier, life expectancy, when you're not looking after your health is, it's a massive pain to look at. And, that personally for me, that's a driver because I have an autoimmune condition. And
Yeah.
if I don't keep myself at a good state of health, my life expectancy is going to be dramatically lowered. It's so, that's a scary fact for me. And that's what people always ask, how do you get through the pain? Even when because I have like arthritis sort of type scenario happens because of my condition, but I can override it if I do certain things. But
Yes.
it takes effort. So we all need those cheat codes
Yeah.
to be able to get the results we want from our exercise. And it doesn't need to be hours and hours and hours, but that desire needs to be there, that there's no way I want to go back to that level of pain, or there's no way I want to die early and not be able to enjoy my time with my family. And in a lot of cases, marriages suffer because stress builds up with not looking after your health in the way you should. And marriages suffer because in the relationships, in various different ways.
Yeah.
Most of my clients, when they really get to that level of, right, I'm super focused, their expectations are not too high, their marriages start to repair. They start finding that they have more time than they originally thought, because they spent more time procrastinating and negative
Yeah.
self-talk and doing toxic things during the day. Whenever you learn to respect your health more, you respect your environment more, which is anything toxic that's taking away from your primary goals in life, you
Yeah.
start to cut it out.
Yeah. I congratulate you on your focus on expectations and what you can do. It's such an important leadership principle, whether it's health and nutrition or whether it's just personal management of our life. Here's my rule: people are happy when they get what they expect. And so to set expectations that don't move you forward, I don't think that's what you're talking about. But the recognition, if you've only got 30 minutes this week, what are you going to do with it? And if you can do that and you choose to do that, it's amazing how that develops the mindset and it keeps people going, and it really does work. And then Simon Sinek wrote the book Start With Your Why. And it sounds like that's, if you don't start there, this is not sustainable. And so I want to move to this next topic because I want to see if we share this. And Tony and I connected on LinkedIn, and Tony reached out and he said, I love your focus on, the power of the environment to influence potential and to influence performance. And we share that particular passion. Here was my experience, then I'll get your parallels in your world. I began speaking after my career in Shell and training in leadership, but I did so for a contract company. And I spent about 13 years traveling the world, training leaders and doing that
Yeah.
for this particular company. There were many days when, you know what, people would come up to me afterwards, they would give me a high five or they'd be crying and they would say, Dave, you know, I realize I need to do this, you know, and it was like one or two things, not 10 things, because if you try to do 10 things, you're going to do zero. But they knew their one or two things and they seemed to have found their why. And that's awesome. So I educated and I entertained, and that's cool. But what drove what I do today was the fact that typically if I went back to these people a month later and you actually measured what changed, the answer was zero.
Accountability.
And so the environment that they went back to would either help, you know, grow those seeds of motivation and knowledge and vision, or it would immediately kill it. And so now I teach leaders how to build environments because I realized, you know, it's great that I can entertain and educate, but I want to do more than that. I want to see life change. I love people. So talk about that as it relates to nutrition.
So I totally agree. And especially with the COVID scenario over the last 2 years, a lot of where we could have created a more positive environment it's been limited in a lot of ways. So a way to create a different environment can simply be going from a quiet place, sitting in the same place, to adding music into that same environment to help uplift you, or add a motivational video or do something like that. So the mind itself is going into different chambers of environments. And I find I do this a lot with clients, but sometimes it brings, what I do with clients is bring them into finding your present moment for the environment you want to be in. And what you mentioned there was, after you had the talks or the seminars and the people were all motivated and they knew what to do, going back to their old environment and comfort, they didn't make change. Well, it's just like a muscle. So what they essentially needed to do was keep reminding themselves, keep going back into part of that environment where they knew they wanted to change. And the more you reinforce that, the more you're able to make yourself reach the goal you want to reach. I'll give an example of whenever I was recovering from my spinal injury, I joined the gymnastics club. I wasn't in any way going to be able to do the gymnastics that children were going to be able to do, but it was environment. And they were at a super high level, and all I could, looking at them doing what they did, I thought, well, I know I can get part of that if I put the work in.
Yes.
And it was to help pull me away from my negativity to go to a higher level. Even today, I had a trapped nerve in my neck since Christmas, and I accidentally freed it today. I went to a park. I'm a martial artist.
Yes.
I've been holding my neck now. This is now 25 days or so. It's been slowly getting better. But what I did was I did some exercise in the park, and there's kickbacks.
Yeah.
So I put on my boxing gloves, but I was taking it very gently just to get flow and movement. And there was a group of Colombian dancers. And I'm not saying I was motivated by the ladies.
That can be a motivation.
Even though it was a bit. But the group of dancers were doing mobility work, and they were doing like dance work, and they were so agile.
Yeah.
And in some cases like that, your ego can make you tense and you push yourself harder than you need to.
Yeah.
But what I seen was flow. What I seen was relaxed flow.
Yeah.
And hitting the punch bag, I started to get into a cycle of, right, I'm just going to work on, again, meeting expectations, drills, small drills to get flow. And before I knew it, I'd been there an hour on the bag.
I love it.
And my neck had released because psychologically I was in a flow state. I was super calm. I was going through these drills, and just by so much variation and movement, throwing punches and elbows lightly, not hardly, I released whatever was trapped in my neck. It was like, wow, breakthrough moment today. And it's a lesson in life. Sometimes we try so hard to get where we need to go, we actually block ourselves.
Yes. And so let me add on to that, because I was like, this is kind of my heart, what you're talking about. Because when you said this, is that, and a lot, we all say it, and it's absolutely true. You need to remind yourself of why you're doing it. If that is all up to you or me, that's where non-sustainability comes in. Because if it's all up to me, my mindset's going to block it, my whatever is going to block it. And you just talked about the power of community. So when I talk about performance, I talk about three players in the game. There's myself, there's the people around me, and there's the environment that I create. I don't control other people to gain results. I have to control what I do to control, to influence what I don't, which is myself and the environment that I create. And when you stepped out and you were in community, there was a couple things that community brought to you. Number one, it was a vision of something that you had never seen before, and it expanded your view. A lot of people think they're not creative, or there's no way around a wall. And the truth is, you just have to have the audacity to put yourself in a different environment and soak in it for a while to see what you pick up. And if people do that on a regular basis, you don't have to be born creative. You're going to start to see new opportunities and new things that are going to start to crumble the walls in your life.
1,000,000%. So it's just about opening your mind to more possibilities instead of thinking you know it all. Because as I say, I'm a coach for 27 years and I learn something new every day.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that you just have to have an open mind.
Yeah, I love it. So Operation Role Model, be your best self. I interviewed a professional driver, a trucker last year. His name is Tim Brewer out of Winnipeg, Manitoba. And based out of some, out of, thoughts of suicide, that was his why. Like he hit rock bottom. And he's adopted, and I forget the name of the methodology or the theology that it comes from, but he's adopted the phrase, kill your clone.
Absolutely.
So it's like every night I go to bed and my goal is just to be a little bit better than the guy was yesterday. And it was kind of that step by step sort of thing. Talk about Operation Role Model. Talk about your program and your methodology, and more about what you do and how you do it, and how people can kind of reach out to what you do.
Thank you. So basically, it's all about being your best self, essentially. And to be your best self, your health needs to be in order. And most people that I deal with need to lose 20, 40, 60. Some people have lost 100 pounds. And it's more than the nutrition and the exercise, as I mentioned earlier. It's about getting the mind in the right place and managing your expectations and removing that guilt, the guilt that comes from not being able to spend the time to do something. But ultimately, I find for most people it's nutrition, and it's the guilt around the nutrition. So the concept I work on allows you to eat your junk food, drink alcohol, all those things. Of course, we have rules, but it's in a way that it's manageable. So if you stick to the rules of that, it's sustainable for life. Yeah. Rather than going on a short-term diet and, maybe restricting the carbs completely, or, doing low carbs, keto, whatever it might be, or intermittent fasting. If it's something that you cannot keep going for good, it's never going to work for you long term. Yeah. So you'll go back to that state of guilt, and your self-image will be broken again after the program finishes, because you know that you didn't do something that was sustainable. It was, yes, you can get quick results with those programs, but it's no good losing 40, 20, 40, 60 pounds, whatever it might be, and then putting it all back on again, 3, 4, 5, 6 months after the program. Yeah. So it's all about that long, sustainable approach to making a big difference. And then, of course, there's the mental aspect that comes with overcoming yourself and, losing the weight and getting yourself to a level that when you look in the mirror in the morning, you're happy and you're confident in yourself. Then you start doing more with your day, you're happier, your relationships improve, you start venting out more of that toxicity that presents itself in your life. You'll walk away from arguments when you know there's no real winning situation there. Why would you waste your time with, any sort of negativity like that? And, that's why I'm passionate about it. And it's a constant journey for me personally as well. I'm constantly studying to be better so that I can bring a better program to my clients. So the more I learn as well and help my own self-development, the more my clients develop faster, essentially, because I've made the mistakes already for you.
And you know what? A lot of times that is so true. If people, can tackle their weaknesses, they become a super strength. Because you've been through the valley and you've come out the other side, you are now the most effective coach. Because when you talk, they know that you get them if they are in the place that you used to be, and you understand them, and you become very effective in terms of coaching them. I loved what I think part of your website talked about, I almost to the fact that you have a goal that people become independent in their program. And so, I'm going to be the coach that kind of sets you free from needing a coach. And here's one pain that I just want to challenge our listeners with, to the point of when it's not sustainable. When it's not sustainable, industry in general and the marketplace loves you because they are going to capitalize and profit off of your pain again and again and again and again and again. The average person rejoins a gym and pays the membership fee again 12 times in their lifetime. That was the North American stat. And you should get mad at that if you are currently part of that trend. And so, Tony, I love the fact that you talk about it. I just want to set you up so this is sustainable and you're not riding that hamster wheel, and that you're not paying as many North Americans do. And probably that would be true of most of the world again and again and again and again. And that roller coaster mentally and psychologically is just so self-defeating.
Absolutely. And it's just a matter of, as we talked about from the beginning, as long as you want to change really and truly, and you have the right tools that will allow you to change in a sustainable fashion, you'll be able to lose weight and keep it off for good.
Yeah.
And many people have done this before. I've had over 600 clients, lose up to 40 pounds in 90 days.
Yeah. Wow.
And now, of course, the time that I spent on exercise ranged anywhere from 2 hours a week till, of course, the ones that got major results spent a lot more time. But, I've had clients lose weight on 30 minutes a week.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of getting a lot of these young bucks in fitness want you to learn the way they do when their metabolisms are still super fast. And they don't really have any injuries to combat, and they don't really have a lot of things in life that are going to keep them so super busy as whenever you have a family and whenever you've got injuries and you're trying to work 14, 16, 18-hour days. If you can manage it within that, then you've got a solution for good.
Yeah, I'm with you. I still feel a young buck inside, but I'm not. And so
I understand that 100%.
That is awesome. So Tony, I appreciate our conversation today. We are kindred spirits in terms of our approach to performance and potential and moving forward. Tony Scullion, SCULLION.com, and Tony is TONY. How else is that the best way to reach out to you?
Yes. So
when they reach out, what can they expect? I know you do a free sort of analysis up front of their nutritional habits, just to kind of see if it's a fit or not, or what you can offer them. Talk about how people engage you.
Well, here's the bottom line. If your mindset's there and you want to change, the next thing is fixing your nutrition. So you can contact me on any of my social media channels. If you just look up on Facebook, Instagram, or on LinkedIn, Tony Scullion, or my website, tonyscullion.com. You can book in a session with me for a 15-minute free overview of your actual nutrition and see what's going wrong. Because as I said, you can still eat junk food and get in shape. So it's a matter of just understanding exactly what's going wrong, because we have to understand, look at the full sphere of things: recovery, nutrition, and of course, stress management is a major one there as well.
Yeah, definitely. Tony, I've enjoyed our conversation today. I will post the links for those of you that are listeners. I'll post the links on the wowtrucks.com website and on the Wow Trucks Facebook community so that you, if you forgot to write it down, you can reference it just by going to the places you normally visit. And I just appreciate you taking the time, and I encourage people, if you found your why and you're at that place where you can make that choice, reach out to this man and explore what's possible. Thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you so much for having me, and I wish you all a very nice day ahead. Have a good one.